Who lived next door to you?
Dinah is the one I knew. I don't know.
Was Uncle Herman? Oh,
He was the bachelor, right?
No,
I
that
don't
was Wally.
remember.
No, there was no bachelor.
Wally had.
Wally was married. They were all
When I
married.
had a store, Lori, he used to come there, he loved retail, he used to come and,
Yeah, he had the store in Pittsburgh.
So
Oh,
she
yeah, what
grew
you-
up. Just think of all your cousins on the same backyards.
All running
grew
between
up.
all of them.
And then I remember going to a Seder. I only remember one Seder.
Zelda Dinah.
At Uncle Herman's house. They would start in one room and it would weed because there were so
I only
many.
had one set of my parents.
You know, they had it every year though.
And didn't one of them become a communist?
Oh yeah.
He became a communist, right?
Not
Really?
one,
One of
not
the-
one of those four.
One of the
No,
uncles?
but one of the 7 uncles. And
It was in
there
the
was a
Lincoln
picture.
Brigade.
There was actually a picture as I.
Lincoln Brigade.
The Abraham Lincoln, I'll tell
He
you that
moved
story.
to New York. I forget his name.
Was
Remember
it
what the
Paul or
Lincoln
not?
Brigade
Was it Paul or not?
I'm not quite
That
sure.
was-
I don't-
But I remember going up to Pittsburgh. There was a family portrait of all the brothers, and they all were carrying or had something that was symbolic to them. And he was holding like a communist newspaper in the picture.
The manifesto probably. But
And so each brother was carrying something.
I
And
didn't
he
see
was,
that picture.
I remember it. And he was carrying,
But
you
when
know,
we lived on Pecutta Street, we had Uncle Nathan, Uncle Herman.
didn't you live on Pecutta Street?
no, I lived on Ludwig Street.
Tell them the story. Do you remember the story about Uncle Marvy with the big steps on that house? The house where they grew up in Pittsburgh. There was a bunch of
Well, we
steps.
were little when we left. We were 7 and 3.
And Uncle Marvin was always a terrible kid. Was he a bad kid, Uncle
Shocking.
Marvin?
Yeah. Okay.
Your son Marvin, was he a bad kid?
No, he
He
wasn't.
would get into mischief. He
Marvy,
was
you
mischievous.
remember Marvy, don't you? Yeah.
Of course I remember.
Okay.
I'm just
So
trying
he
to
would
think.
open the door all the time and get out. And what happened one time? Like
A neighbor would call that, and there was like maybe 20 steps, concrete. The neighbor would call and say, I hate to tell you, but your son is sitting on my top step. He climbed up 20 steps.
he was 3
I don't
years
know how
old.
his lessons
Went
went,
across the
'cause we
street.
Right,
Just
right.
like Jeffrey, huh?
Jeffrey was like that. He would go across the street. And didn't you have to tie him to the steps eventually?
You know how many years you're going back? How many?
Well,
Marvin
Marvy was 2 and Marvy
70.
60 something.
Right.
Oh, my
65
God.
years.
It's a lot. We lived 55, 47. Oh my God. Look at such. Now, I forget sometimes. But this I remember.
But let me tell them the story with this guy who was a communist. There was something in Spain at the time. I don't know the year, maybe you know, the Abraham Lincoln Brigade
never heard
with the
of
B
that.
in Spain. Jeff knew the year, but I forgot. I think in the 20s, prior to World War II. He went over and fought on the side of the communists against I think it was Franco's government, was the nationalist government, and fought against them and was killed. He was killed
The brother
fighting
was
for,
killed?
yeah.
He never married, right? He was a young man.
He was young.
I remember that there was a communist brother.
Yeah.
Huh.
Know who else was fairly absent? My cousin Miriam, or one of them. My cousin.
Is that the one who moved to Israel?
Yeah.
I don't know her.
I forget. She was a cousin of mine.
And this is an interesting thing also with the families. In Russia, there was 9 brothers. There was really one sister. Do you remember why they lost contact with that sister?
She did something that they didn't like. I can't. Did she become pregnant?
No, she married someone not Jewish.
And
So
they
they
never
like
spoke to her
sat
again.
shiva for her, and they never spoke to her again.
Do you ever know what happened to her?
That I heard.
Could you sit shiva for a person who's living?
Right.
Well, it's kind of like they didn't really sit shiva, but they like disowned her.
Yeah.
And they never found out whatever happened to her?
Wait, those are her cousins, her first cousins?
No,
Her aunt.
That would have been her aunt. Her father. The father was one of 9 brothers.
Okay.
And,
And
then
there was one
a
sister.
This is the story they told
They
me.
had,
In
the,
Russia.
the sister never came or something.
She never came up.
Because
Big family in Russia still.
she married, we said a Jacobs in those
Jacobs.
Yeah, it's coming back.
Gregor said we may be
Isn't
related
that
to Eugene.
strange?
Maybe what?
Related to Eugene,
All right.
the guy in Russia.
guy from
Our
Russia.
tour guide.
Oh,
Because
You
we
could
got a
have been.
family in Russia.
Yeah, you could have been, but I don't know if they
You
ever.
know how many years back we go? How many do I go?
Well, you're 94, right?
So
You're
you go back
94.
94 years.
You're 94 years old, Nan.
You have to tell her.
I think she knows, right?
94.
You know what, honey? It's a wonderful family. We have good memories.
Yeah, you do.
This is
can't
But
what
I can remember them.
the different things that we did and we remembered. You just don't live. You live with the family. And to me, it was very close.
It was, because you grew up on the same street as everyone.
That's cool.
Because
That's true. You remember, you
because
remember crazy things.
wait a minute, 55, 47.
I don't know. I was
Dad
never,
wasn't there.
He wasn't there.
I was there. You
I
took
lived
me
at
there. Your,
35,
when I
20
went,
North
your
West Ninth Avenue.
cousin Dinah lived there, right? Dinah. She was
Yeah.
the one who lived in Pittsburgh.
So, but she moved down here.
She took me. She took me to Pittsburgh twice, I think. The first time Pittsburgh was coal mines. It was gross. It was disgusting. And then you
Industrial
took me back, and all the coal mines and steel mills. I guess steel mills had stopped, and we went up to the top of the mountain on a.
The incline, remember the
What are those
incline?
things called?
Like a
Funiculars, on a
cable,
funicular.
Kind of the,
Yeah, and we ate dinner or something upstairs. Remember that
Weren't
place?
you there on work once and met Nan?
Maybe that's why I was there for work. And I went to West
Yeah,
Virginia.
because we were already together when you went back.
Yeah.
I remember
I think
that.
you were working.
Yeah. Well, one time she took me, and one time I went with work
where did
to Pittsburgh.
I was never.
It was a nice city. The second time
The
it
second-
was very nice.
Pittsburgh got one of the top places in the country
Yeah,
to live.
it
or
was
the
very,
top
very
one,
nice.
Uh-huh.
I was never there.
I just remember we used to go back every summer to see my grandparents. Sometimes I went to camp up there.
you know, I can't remember my grandfather. How old was he when he passed away?
Your grandfather or your father?
Both.
Your father was in his 50s, I think, because he had cancer.
I
Your
don't,
grandfather,
I don't think so.
I don't even know if he came from Russia.
You know, my mother,
He's Russian.
Yeah, I remember your mother, Becky.
she was
Long
my
hair.
mother was a beautiful lady.
She was.
And
She
my
had
She
hair
mother-
had
like your
she had hair. It was
White.
pitch white, all
Along
gray,
his length.
like a lot. And she would put it up in a bun. Remember
Hmm.
Becky with her hair?
Becky,
You
she-
remember her,
I
Rob?
have a
No?
story.
No,
No.
Rob
It was
never
a
met her.
I never met her.
hurricane coming. So I was
He-
going out with
1980
with
when
Marcia.
Becky died when I
And
was
they
6.
asked
Oh, yeah.
me to stay there because I was the only man in the house.
You were the man?
Yeah,
That's
so
scary.
I laid, I was in the couch in the back, went to sleep. And Marcia used to sneak in, but that was okay.
That's okay.
Where was Marvin?
I don't know, but where did he stay? He stayed with your mother.
I guess he was
And who did you stay with, Becky?
Yeah. And at 4 o'clock in the morning, she came in to check on me because the winds were howling and screaming. And she looked at me and I woke up and I thought, swear to God, I thought it was a witch there. Because of long hair and
She had beautiful hair.
She modeled like in,
She
there
was-
was a department store in downtown Miami called Burdine.
True story.
Before Macy's.
I know Bernard's.
Yeah. She used to model for elderly people's clothes. She was a very, very attractive
She was.
lady. A very attractive lady.
She was.
How many years has she gone
Oh, since I'm 6 years old. 40 years.
for?
Right? When I'm 6. That's when Dave died.
You remember her, right?
Yeah.
See,
I think
Jeff
Dave
didn't.
and
Jeff
Beck-
hardly remembered her.
Dave and Becky died around the same time, didn't they? Because I
Debbie
remember
is-
Dave died when I was 6. So, and Debbie was
Debbie
named
was
after
named
him.
for Dave.
So,
But I used to. I don't know if you remember. Helen, you know who Helen and Jack are?
yeah.
They're Jack's grandmother, I guess, and Mary's mother were in the same like nursing home by Reynolds Park, by where we used to live.
Right.
That we would pick you and Jeff up,
Stephen.
and Stephen and Warren and maybe Debbie, and every week we used to take them over to visit,
No.
to see their great
I
grandmother.
don't remember. I vaguely remember Becky. I mean, I could picture her. I don't know if I picture her from pictures or if I really picture her.
How long
She maybe
has
died
my
before
mother
I was
gone
6.
already?
How long?
40,
what?
How
40
long?
years.
40 years.
Oh my God. A long time.
I don't remember the year she died, honestly.
Before Dave.